uh, let's get this. Okay, so we're going to learn how to actually put these, like we gathered a whole bunch of information, some of which I always want you to get. Some of it, I just do it at the beginning to get you thinking about the different components that are taking place here. I will highlight the ones that I always want you to get before you graph things, okay? So here they are. It would be the y-intercept and the vertex, right? Those two are very important, as well as the x-intercepts. This is on page 9, okay? As well as the x-intercepts. Okay, so those three pieces, basically, I always tell my students intercepts and vertex. Vertex is called a turning point. Next year in grade 12 applied, we're going to talk about them and refer to them as turning points sometimes. So why don't I already expose you to it, right? Turning point. Okay. Vertex is also called where the curve completely changes direction and goes a different way, right? And as I was, some of you, I forgot to post the key. Lolo, I forgot to post the key to this, so that was my bad. So thanks for contacting me. I tried to do like a makeshift operation there, so the pictures are really small. I apologize for that. But I'm gonna scan the whole thing after today and post it if you're still interested. Anyways, when you graph things, it's important to, especially when you enter this into your calculator, you want to know what kind of window do I need to make this happen. And I forgot to write down the window yesterday, okay? So I'm gonna ask you to actually graph, like enter this into your calculator. I know you have other stuff in there, but let's do this again because it's important to know how to find your window, because I cannot help you with that on a test, right? You're gonna ask me, like, Mr. Dirks, I'm not seeing it, and I can't tell you a whole lot there. So if you enter this quadratic, you expect it to point down. You know the y-intercept, right? You know a bunch of things. So when you graph that thing, we could only see this leg, but you know that the behavior is like this, right? You know that. So knowing that, what was it? X max was 50, I think. Y min we went all the way to negative 250, and Y max I think we went up to 150. If I remember correctly, let's just try that. Yeah, that works. So if you're looking at my window, if you want to copy the parameters, and you're like, what about the X scale, Y scale, Mr. Dirksen? What about that? Do we ever touch that? Some teachers do. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't, right? The scale, the window, as long as you see the curve, you're good to go. It will get you everything you need. Okay. And another thing I want you to know, I like when those questions come up. So some students try this at first because they are not familiar with the functions. So they try to just use that cursor with the arrows and go as close as possible to the vertex. And that's about it. And then they just write down these coordinates. I would say don't do that because it's not going to be exact, right? That we want the exact location of that. So to find the vertex, right, we would go second trace, and it's either min or max. It's one of these, right? So for us, it's the max. So we have to go to the left of it, hover over to the right, and then it's 24.99. See how last time was 25.0000, right? So the rounding will get you to 25 no matter what, and this is 112.5, right, for the y. So that's our vertex there. We did that. And I showed you how to find the x-intercepts. We found those already. Do we need to review that one more time? I let y2 equal to 0. Then I hit graph. Some of you that did the homework, you're like, I know this already, right? Then you go second trace intersect. So I press number 5. I go closer to the left here. Enter, enter, enter. It's 10, 0. Second trace 5 again. You want a shortcut, guys? Instead of going all the way over, you go arrow down. And then you just run across like this. That's also okay to do. And then I go enter, enter, enter. Right? So you can run along either curve, and that's you jump curves by using up and down arrow when you're doing the second trace intersect. So there it is, 40, 0. We've got that taken care of. Quick review. Now, if I ask you to graph this, normally I don't want you to have the X-min, all of that there. I don't want you to have that. But for today, I just wanted you to know the window, how to set that. So if you look at your graph, look at the x-intercepts, 40 is supposed to be on there and then some. So I think in this case, I can have a scale of 10. Right? I'm going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, like that. And obviously this one way at the end here would be 50. So I'm going to erase the x max and just say that that is 50 there. And I'm going to put an arrowhead there on that axis and call that X. Okay. And you have to have the consistent scale along X. Like if you're choosing to have a scale of 10, it needs to be consistent. You can't all of a sudden go up by 5s just because you feel like it. Like if you choose for example, every fifth box for us. Every fifth box is 10 for us in this case. So that has to be consistent. The X-min, I'm just going to get rid of that and just go arrowhead there. That's going to make sure we got our x-intercepts, right? So the 10, 0, let's make a big dot right there. And the 40, 0, those are going to be the x-intercepts. Okay, at 10 and at 40. In this case, it's easy. It's a nice round number. Quite often, they're going to be decimals. As long as they're close enough, you're good to go. Okay. Next, I need to get my vertex in, which would be 25, 112, right? Somewhere up here. And I also need to get my y-intercept in. I need to make sure I fit that in. So I'm going to go, watch what I'm going to do here. If I go 50, 100, 150, 200, that works pretty well. So I'm going to go negative 50, negative 100, negative 150, negative 200. You could have picked 100 at a time as well. That would have been acceptable. But you have to be consistent along the y-axis. You notice how they are different, right? Different scales on the x-axis, different scale on the y-axis. That's okay, as long as you're consistent. So this would be 50, and this would be 100, and this would be 150. That's good enough. How did I come up with my scale? By looking at these critical points that need to be on the graph. That's how I figured out what kind of scale to use. Sometimes you might have to erase and start over. That's okay. So I'm going to plot the negative 200 right here. Big dot, like a big dot there. And then the vertex, which is 25, it's exactly between 20 and 30. And it's up 112, right? So I'm going to go to 100. This will be 125, right? Between, so I'm going to go somewhere in there. That's where the vertex is located. And now I can sketch this thing. So I'm going to start here. Watch how I do this. Don't go straight to that point. It looks like a V. They don't want that. Their province wants a shape. So you curve out a bit. And then, so maybe you want to go light at first. I'm going to get rid of the Y min. down here, and same with the, I'm just gonna now just call it the y-axis, okay? Hope you didn't use a pen there. It's okay, it's not the biggest deal. And then you copy that, you go out a little bit and then down. You want that kind of like a U smooth shape, and we're just gonna do that, that's fine. That hole punch kind of makes it difficult to continue, right? Can I show you a trick here? If you wanted to know what the point is out here, right? You ready for this? I'm going to give you more and more tricks, right? It's almost like cheats, right? So if you go, turn on your calculator, go to your graph. Let me see. Oh, there. That's better. You want to know there's a point across this one. They match. They're looking at each other. So watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to my window. No, let's just, sorry. I'm trying to get you to understand what's happening. So go back to your graph, sorry. We're going to go to y equals. And we're going to, in y2, we're going to enter negative 200. Negative 200. Why am I doing that? That's my y-intercept, right? Hit graph. There it is, see? So I now know that this is the line that's going to get me right across on the opposite leg, right over here. And you now you can do second trace 5. Again, second trace intersect. And you can actually find the intersection. Just go over closer to this intersection on the right side and hit enter 3 times. Enter, enter, enter. Oh, what happened there? It couldn't find it because it's not quite on my screen. So I need to go to my window and increase X max. I'm going to go, sorry, X max. Let's go 75 and hit graph again. We need to do this all over again. And now I'm going to try this again. Second, trace 5. Go closer to this one. Hit enter 3 times. And there it is. 50, negative 200 is this point over here. For today, I'm not going to add it to this graph because it's not necessary. This is good enough, right? But this is a trick that you can use. You'll become quite creative, okay? I will just add a note here. For graphs, right? This is what I'm looking for. Intercepts. Vertex. And a scale. I want the scale to be appropriate. Those are the main pieces that I'm looking for. X and Y intercepts, vertex, and what kind of scale did you use on your graph? Is it a consistent scale? So this is actually worth highlighting. On your study sheet, I would just, because you're going to do a lot of graphing, so quite often graphs are anywhere between 2 to 3 marks. So if you want full marks, look for that. And when we do word problems, I'm going to add labels on top of that. But these are like the main pieces you need to actually make that graph happen. Okay. Okay, let's try another one. And you're like, do I need to graph the AOS and the equation of min and max? No, it doesn't need to be on there unless I ask specifically for that to appear. In general, no. Okay, Let's keep going. Page 10. I did post the key way later, but we're going to redo this, okay? So follow me. I'm going to enter that x minus 4, just in case I need to show you a trick or two, right? X minus 4 squared minus 7. You notice that this is not in general form. There's only one set of brackets, so that's the vertex form. Okay. It's opening up because A is positive. It has a normal width because A is located right there. That's where A is located, and A is equal to 1 in this case. To find the y-intercept, you have to use the calculator because this is not in general form. You can't just grab that last, right? Do you want to do this here? Because I test you on this all the time. This is wrong, right? I don't know, like make sure that -7 is wrong. Like don't grab the 7 there and just say that's my y-intercept. And I use my calculator for it, right? So once you graph it, let's graph this together because the window may not be appropriate, right? There it is. It's not bad actually. Like you see the curve, but I'm going to go zoom standard. So zoom 6. That is pretty good. Okay. Now the y-intercept is visible. You might want to increase your y max a little bit, but it's good enough as it is. Okay. So I'm going to say this window is -10, 10, and -10, 10. And you're like, what? What is that? That's x min, x max, y min, y max. So if I ever do this on a key, sorry, you can't see that. If I ever do this on a key, if you see this, it's telling you the min max for the x and the y. So then you know, okay, that's how I for sure will see my graph, right? But you do not need to include that on your work. Whenever you do work, you don't need to include that. That's more for you than for me. How do I get that -10, 10? Watch, when I did zoom standard, if you go to your window, it automatically gets it back to that window, okay? I know some of you are just waiting for the graph already, okay? So it's normal. We found the y-intercept. We're going to find the vertex. Let's go ahead and do that. So graph, second trace is where it's at. In this case, it's a minimum. So you have to select the third option. And it says left boundary, right? So you're going to go, this is the vertex right here. Anywhere to the left of the vertex is fine. So you're going to hit enter. Go past the vertex to the right because it wants a right boundary. Hit enter. And then enter one more time when it says guess. And so it's 4, -7. Okay? 4, -7. Do you notice anything? You notice that? This is vertex form. So the -7 came down exactly, right? But the 4 is +4 here. So you switch the sign of it when you bring it out. We're going to do more of that later. Right now, I just want you to observe that. Axis of symmetry is easy. It's just x is equal to 4. In this case, it's an equation of the minimum, and that is y is equal to -7. Let's find our x-intercepts. y2 is equal to 0. Every time you need to use your calculator to find stuff, give me the keystrokes. Okay, so we're going to graph this. I'm going to go y2 is equal to 0. Second trace. Watch this. You can do this now if you want. Second trace 5. That's the same thing as second trace intercept. Right? So we go second trace 5. Go as close as possible to the first one. Hit enter 3 times. and that's 1.35. And then we're going to 0, right? Okay, that's one x-intercept. And let's find the other one. Second trace 5. Let's go over to the second one. I'm going the long way. Enter, enter, enter. That's 6.65, right? If you round that correctly, it's 6.65. The domain for all parabolas, if there's no word problem attached to it, is just all real numbers. Or you can do this one. Either or is fine. Okay. Range, it's pointing up, right? That is pointing up. So it'd be y is greater than or equal to, the y values have to be greater than or equal to the y value of my vertex. So -7. Or you could say, right, the lowest y value is -7, and then it goes all the way up to positive infinity because it never ends, right? So both of those are correct. I hope the domain and range is going to come up again and again. Okay. All right, now we're ready. Okay, so let's put arrowheads right away and not lose marks there. Right? And then you can call this y-axis, x-axis. Later on, that's going to be time and height, distance and height, time and money, you name it, right? For now, it's x and y. Look at, I'm going to do this again, okay? These are the key players in figuring out whether or not what kind of scale I need to use, okay? So I'm looking at the x-intercepts, 1.35 all the way to 6.65. Not a big deal at all, small numbers. I look at my y values, all the way to 9 positive, -7. So not a big deal at all. So what I'm going to do here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't work. So I need to go by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm going up by twos here. I'm going to do the same thing on the negative. Just a couple like that. And then for my y, I need to go all the way up to 9 for the intercept. And all the way to -7. So I'm going to stick with the same scale here. 2, 4, 6, 8. And then it's -2, -4, -6, and -8. All right, so here we go. Let's plot our points. I'm starting with my x-intercepts. 1.35. This would be 1 right about there. Right? 1.35 is just over here. Just make a big dot there. And then 6.65. This would be 7 right here. So it's just under 7 right there. Those are your x-intercepts. Let's go to the vertex. It's 4, -7. That would be right here, because it's between 6 and 8, right? So that's my vertex. And the y-intercept is 0, 9. I'm in a little bit of trouble here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. But 9 would be right about there. Okay. So now you have everything you need. So I'm starting at my vertex. I'm going to go out a little bit and then up. So just make sure it doesn't curve in. Okay, if I see at all that it's curving in, you will lose marks. Province wants you to show that it keeps going out indefinitely. Oh, I forgot something earlier. My bad. You graphed an IPR, right? An intro to applied and pre-cal. What should be on the graph every time? The equation, right? The name of this thing. So this equation should technically be on here. Right? Somewhere on this graph, you should add the thing. That is a full, you would get full marks here. Arrowheads everywhere. X and Y axis labeled. Consistent scale on both axes. Right? You've got the equation. So let's, I'm a little rusty today, so for graphs, let's do this again. We'll scratch the other one. You need intercepts. You need the vertex, which is called the turning point next year. You need an appropriate scale, labels, and arrows. That's better. Here you can't go wrong here. This is the list you should have on your study sheet. And by labels, I mean equation and everything, okay? By labels, I'm just going to go arrow out. Equation, axes, right? So now I'm going to mess up your notes by doing this, but I'm going to go back and ask you to cross that one out that I gave you, just so we don't have conflicting messages, right? I'm going to go back and just be like, don't worry about this one. See the other one. And on this one, on this graph, let's take a moment and just write this down. I took my sweet time today. You're gonna become really good at this and fast, right? You're basically just gonna focus on the pink parts here, the intercept and the vertex, and then you're gonna be good to go to graph this thing. Okay. Let's do one more. So on page 11, and then I'll ask you to try a few before I do the next part. In fact, I'm going to help you gather this information, which you should already have, to be honest. And then I'm going to ask you to graph this on your own. Form. It's definitely not general. And remember, you have to pick from general, vertex, this is on page 11, or factored. There are three forms, right? It's definitely not general. It's one of these. Vertex only has one bracket. One bracket. Factored has two brackets. This is on page 11. Okay, so this is actually factored form. Okay. So factored, it's not terribly crucial, to be honest, because you can always type this into your calculator and get everything out of it. Opening, A is positive, so it's up. Okay. Width, A is equal to 1, so it's normal. Y-intercept, I need to use my calculator for that. So let's enter this. I'm going to go x minus 8, x plus 15. Hit graph. Pretty sure we're going to have to change our window here. I only only see one, right? But you know this thing is pointing up. So you have a pretty strong feeling that this is looking like that. Okay? Just by the little leg that you're seeing. So let's go to our window. I'm going to adjust my Y min. I'm going to bring that down. And as well as my X min, I'm going to have to decrease that. So window, X min, I'm going to go -20 for now. Y min, I'm going to go -50. I'm just guessing, guys. I don't have a magic formula, right? So hit graph. I've got my intercepts, the x-intercepts, that's good, but I still need to go lower on my y-min, correct? So window, y-min, I'm going to go -100 and hit graph again. Still not good enough. One more time. -150, hit graph. Do I have everything? I do actually. X-intercepts, check. Y-intercept, check. Vertex, check. I've got everything I need to see. Keep in mind that there could be no x-intercept. It could be that it never crosses, right? So right now I'm making sure that happens. So let's keep going here. Y-intercept, second trace 1, x is equal to 0. So it's -120. Second trace 1, x equal to 0, 0, -120. And I used somewhat easy numbers, okay? Round numbers. The vertex, second trace, in this case it's a min, right? So you could go second trace 3 if you wanted to. And some students give me like every single step they take. Sure, you can go for it if you want. You're not going to lose marks. But this is like the bare minimum. So second trace min, right? Minimum. I'm already close to it, so I'm going to go to the left of the vertex, enter. To the right of the vertex, enter. And one more time. So it's -3.5, -132.25. So you can see that the y is pretty big numbers on the negative side, right? No big deal. X is equal to -3.5 is the axis of symmetry. Remember, this is a vertical line, right, going through the vertex right here. Equation of the min is y is equal to the y value, and that's a horizontal line. Remember that. Also going, both of these go through the vertex. Okay. X-intercepts. I already have y2 is equal to 0. So it's all done. I just have to go second trace 5. Go to the one you want. So I want the left first. That's close enough, guys. You just have to tell the calculator you want to be closer to the one you want to find. Right? So enter, enter, enter. So I'm just going to tell myself y2 is equal to 0. Second trace 5. So I get -15, 0. And then we're going to find the other one. I'm going to jump. I'm going to go arrow up or down to jump to the red line. Notice that everything is red now, all the numbers. That means you're on the red line. That's important because sometimes you don't see it. Enter, enter, enter. And that's 80. Do you see those numbers anywhere? Anybody? Let's go back up to the original. You see the 8 and the 15? And they show up again. But what do you notice about the sign when you take it out of the brackets? They switched, right? -15 and 8 was negative up in the bracket, and then it turned into positive 8. Just want you to observe that, okay? Domain and range. This is always the same for now, but you should be able to answer that just like that, right? Domain is all real numbers, every single x value. The range, it's pointing up, so it'd be y is greater than or equal to the lowest value possible, which is negative 132.25. You could also write it like this, negative 132.25 all the way to positive infinity. Round bracket, square bracket. Okay. So I know that there's lots of stuff going on here, but don't just give in. You practice until you master it. You think you can graph this on your own? Scary, right? Give it a try. Couple minutes. You need to figure out your scale. So there are apps that you can activate, but they actually mess with the normal setting. So one of the things that happens quite often, actually, just look up here. If your equal sign, like if that equal sign is not highlighted, which is going to come in handy later, one of the equal sign is not highlighted. If you graph this thing, it's not going to graph the one that is not highlighted. So let's say you have 3 or 4 graphs at the same time and you only want to show one of them, right? Then I do that sometimes, but other than that, you want all of them to be highlighted, okay? Anyways, good reminder for me to explain that. From what I've seen, it looked pretty good. Maybe the shape, sometimes the shape you're still learning, so it's okay. But definitely for the X, my scale, if I go 2, 4, 6, 8, that works this way. But it will not work if I go up by 2s for the negative 15, right? It won't fit it. So I'm going to say, let's say 3, 6, 9, 12. That would work. You can go by 4s or by 5s even. How about I do that? Don't change yours. But let's say you want to go 15 this way, and then you have to go consistently by 5s this way. So negative 5, negative 10, negative 15. You could go negative 20. But I'm going by 5s across the board here, right, for the x-axis. Because I needed to make sure I fit both of them in there. That's going to take care of that. So let's plot that. 8 is right about, actually it's like 6, 7, 8 is right there. This one can be very precise. Let's do the vertex. Negative 3.5. So 1, 2, 3 and a half. And then I need to go down to 132, right? So 50, 100, 150, that works, right? So again, I will emphasize this, whatever works, okay? You don't have to have the exact same scale as me. And so negative 3.5, negative 112, 132, sorry, right about there. That's the vertex. And then the y-intercept is 0, negative 120, so that would be right there. Here's where it gets a little tricky, right? Let's see here. So you kind of have to go out and still up. Make sure it doesn't go in, right? It gradually keeps going out, and then you go back here and do the same thing. Right? So there you go. That's good. And then make sure you have f of x. Notice that I used f of x just to make sure you don't think anything changes. Nothing really changes, right? So there you have it. That's your graph. So scale, arrowheads, labels, intercepts, vertex, you name it, it's all there. Good job. I'm just gonna do this and this because this is where it's at when it comes to graphing, right? I would actually expect you to have done this on the side, somewhere on the side or underneath or somewhere that I would expect to see that work, okay, for this particular one. Okay, you have a brand new booklet. Like yours is like the latest edition. The homework for more of these, okay? I have to find it. I know it's somewhere back here, so let me just find it. I don't know why I buried it so far back, but and there it is, 29 and 30. Okay, so look at page 29 and 30. Looks like this. Go find it real quick. Go find it real quick. 29 and 30, because I want to, you see, though, it's not the grid that I gave you earlier, right? Because that was like a baby step, right? You first have a nice grid, and then slowly I'll get you to be pros at something like this, right? The key here, the key to your scale, so you're going to have to collect the information just like before. You're going to find your intercepts. Does it point up or down? Is it narrow or wide? It's just a little different, right? And the key here is be very careful. I'm going to erase this, so don't do this right now. But I make sure my scale is like consistent. So if this is my spacing, I keep it the same. So I'm not too picky that you have to have a ruler and has to be down to the nearest millimeter, but it has to be consistent, the spacing. If you do like this, if you go like this, and all of a sudden the gap gets bigger, you will lose marks for that. Okay, so you introduce the spacing and you can have it as far spread out as you want or as close together as you want. So if you want to go, you know what, this is going up by 1 and all I need is 3. So you can go 1, 2, 3, no big deal, right? But if things are really spread out, like you're in the hundreds here for the x-intercept, then you probably want to be a bit more conservative, right? This is on page 29 in case you're wondering. So it's like, oh, I'm all the way out to 437 for my x-intercept. So then you're going to go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. You always go a little bit further, and then the 437 would go somewhere in there. I'm just making stuff up. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the case for this one. But I want you to practice that. So I have the key to this as well. I promise I will post it. I think I even have an old video where I go through this. If I find it, I will post it alongside the key. So if you're stuck, like really stuck, then you can just go and see if the video helps you through it. So for today, you know what? The rest of today's class, this is going to be your homework for tomorrow, right? Just to know how to graph things on your own, okay? Trust me, you're going to see how there's a window section down here. This is for you. Like, what window did you use to make this graph appear on my screen? It's not crucial that you fill this in, but it's there for you to use. So X-min, X-max, Y-min, Y-max, you put those numbers in here, and then you fill that in, okay? So for the rest of today's class, page 29 and 30, I'm just going to put the homework down here. More graphing, right? Page 39. No. 29, right? What did I say? 29. 29 to 30, okay? You got to promise me you're going to try it. All of them, right? And if you struggle with one or two, it's not the end of the world, but you give it your best shot, okay? And so I'm going to stop my lesson here. I have the axis of symmetry lesson there. I'm going to pause on it. Just make sure you're really comfortable with finding your intercepts, graphing this thing, because that's very important to me. Okay, very, very important. For next year, for later in this unit, for the other unit we're going to do based on graphing. So that's it for today.